Okay, you're good to go. I'll just go.
Okay, thank you everyone for attending and or watching this meeting afterwards. My name is Brad Parker. I am an engineer with Greenland Consulting, and we were charged with updating the tank machines engineering standards. Helping us was Popovich and Associates, and later on, Steve Popovich will be up here to discuss the site plan updates as well. So, why update the engineering standards? So, an engineering standard document in general are constantly changing and evolving document, which need to keep up with the various aspects of change within the industry. An updated document helps support municipal staff when navigating and commenting on draft plan submissions, engineering submissions for new developments by providing direct references that are easily found and supported. Construction industry is constantly changing and technology is always evolving as well. For instance, switching materials in the construction industry is the norm. Recently, and quite often now, all infrastructure related to pipe has become plastic, whether PVC or HDPE, and has started to move away from metals such as ductile iron or galvanized culverts. Construction methods themselves are becoming more advanced through the uses of GPS systems, where digital drawings are just as important as hard copies. In addition, engineering standards must also remain consistent with governing regulations, such as new laws, bylaws, and regulations which become implemented by governing bodies, such as the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, the Building Code, provincial government, as well as the town planning technician itself. So, as an example, the Building Code for the last couple of years has updated their standards to include a 25mm service lateral, whereas the norm previously was 19mm, and would be reflected in the new standard. So the standards being updated and being able to be updated each year helps the town keep up with any code updates. Another example is the recent implementation of the excess soils regulation, which is an OREG and under the EPA. And this OREG specifically involves the proper process to test, handle, and dispose of excess soils, and it puts a lot of onus and responsibility on the municipality or the owner of the soils. So supporting documents related to referencing the OREG and municipal process for this is quite important. And then lastly, municipal target goals. These are constantly changing as well from a public works perspective. We've noticed, and specifically in the town, infiltration is being targeted as a big ticket item that municipalities are really cracking down on, mostly related to infiltration into the sanitary sewer, which uses excess capacity of the plant and increases operating costs. So updating the standards, which target reducing infiltration, and we'll get into that when we get to the sanitary section. The municipality has better tools to help realize more capacity at the wastewater treatment plant and not wasting money on treating groundwater. So I'll just move into a quick overview of the updates that we've done to the standards. The standard document is 133 pages long. So we're just going to give a brief overview on some of the higher level sections without getting too much into the technical details. So some of the larger sections include the water system, the sanitary system, stormwater system, traffic, roads, utilities, lighting, landscape, and then as a separate document, we have the site plan. Another portion of the standards that were updated are the submittals and requirements. So not necessarily technical, but more process related as it relates to draft plan submission requirements, subdivision application requirements, and then the site plan application requirements as well. So these will help smooth out the process when new development comes through and should be a standardized submission process. So in addition to that, the standard drawings, usually found at the end of the document have been updated digitally into CAD form, or they can continually be changed or amended if necessary. Again, as the construction industry or technology adapts, then the town has the ability to move with it year over year. And then lastly, reference documents. As I mentioned in the OREG example, it's just good to have a list of reference documents, the Ministry of Environment swim manuals, water system, sewer system, conservation authority best practices for low impact developments. All of these are good to have at hand, which the municipality uses and would like to see in submissions. So we'll move on to the water system. So just to give a high level overview on some of the bigger items that were updated as part of the standing documents. Updated water demands, peaking factors, and these are based on historical water meter usage. So the town keeps a record on water meter usage and demands. From the old MOE manual, used to be 450 liters per person per day. And through analyzing the data, this can be reduced within the town of Penetangue to 350 liters per person per day or below. And a lot of this is contributed to increased technologies from toilets, showers, dishwashers, just be more conservative with water. Again, this helps the town realize more capacity in the plant as new developments don't need to use or request as much capacity. Another aspect was the inclusion of updated materials lists, such as petroleum tape, which is used for corrosion protection, different style hydrant ports, and Municipex, which is a surface lateral material, one of many, but each water department has their preferences, so these are reflected in this. Also within the water system was expanded items on construction related standards. So layout, water main pipe clearance, cover depth restraints, corrosion protection, petroleum tape I mentioned, valves, valve chambers, items like that. These are technical, but everything was all updated there. And then also included for the procedural aspect was the checklist, water main design checklist, and then the commissioning procedure for the best management standards. So the new developments are itself the water main, whether for the town or for their own purposes. All this items available. So moving on to the sanitary system, the town recently updated a sewer or town-wide sewer model, and this can be incorporated into pre-consultation meetings for new development to check capacity of pipes downstream, not necessarily immediately where well may be discharging, but gives the town an overall view of where the restrictions are, where necessary improvements need to be included. And that's again constantly evolving as developments are brought online. So that is helpful during the pre-consultation aspect of it. And the standards reference the developers to consult with the town. Same as the water demand, updated design flows. Water and sanitary demands are generally quite similar in terms of demand flows. And again, this helps reduce each development's impact or reserve on the structure of that capacity. Updated construction materials and construction practices. Again, I mentioned reducing or targeting to reduce infiltration. This is a big one for most municipalities. where the pipes have gone to PVC. Around the manholes, there is rubber boots to help prevent infiltration at the concrete interface. And then depending on groundwater, there's also the option to waterproof the manhole themselves. And again, all of this is updated to reduce infiltration. And ultimately cost the taxpayer. Okay, so we'll just move on to the stormwater management system. So the intensity, duration, frequency, IDF data was increased by 15% to account for climate change. This will increase the storm sizes that developments are required to deal with prior to discharging to the water courses. So as a recent, I think the town probably since 2018, and since then we've seen at least 2 50-year storm events in the town and a handful of 5+ year events. And those are fairly low probability events, but in general, they seem to be happening more and more often throughout kind of everywhere in Ontario. So to increase the stormwater management system to account for this is a good idea. It creates a bit of a block there. So computer modeling versus manual calculations. Computer modeling has come a long way in the last 5 to 10 years in terms of accuracy and speed. Whereas the hand calculations may be a bit inaccurate depending on the size of the site. So that's been included in there in terms of when to use each. Similar to storm and sanitary, updated design data, including pipe size with minimum and maximum velocities, stormwater system layout, bedding, backfill, maintenance holes, catch basins, in relation to frost traps, some slids, covers, all the technical detail. And then overlaying flow routes and storm protection levels as it relates to major and minor roads. Listing the levels of service that are expected within the town. For example, an arterial road, a major road would be expected to handle about 100%. Okay, stormwater management facilities. Again, this is a big one in terms of stormwater, quantity control, and stormwater management facility types and uses based on the area being developed and the area draining to it. Added sections to low impact development. The town of Penetang is actually quite fortunate with their sandy soils that low impact development can generally be used quite readily. Which helps with not only quality control, but quality control as well. That leads into the next point with treatment train approaches, where the standards specify or prefer, I should say, treatment train approaches with bioretention swales, vegetative buffers, items like that to treat the water prior to discharging to a swim pond, trim over the footprint swim ponds, and potentially mitigate if possible. So swim pond planting and stabilization, there's additional information in there in terms of types of planting, favorite native plants, and when stabilization is to occur. These type of items generally get overlooked during the construction process, so it's good for the municipality to have a reference to that when navigating that. Sediment and erosion control as well, specific standards on that and what's expected from the town to be implemented, as well as designed from then lastly, maintenance and operation of the facilities. Generally, this is in the form of a document provided by the developer, where they outline specifically the maintenance, depending on the type of pond, and a type of operation that should be undertaken whether by the developer if it's a private subdivision or if the municipality reference. It's a draft of subdivision in municipality wants to pursue. Okay, roads and traffic. Road design hasn't really changed a whole lot in the last couple of years, so there's been nothing groundbreaking here updated. Geometric road design was updated, no good intersection design. Roadway construction is always a big ticket item, asphalt placement specifically. So use of shuttle buggy, which is just another method to help the roller, or sorry, help the machinery place the asphalt in the more consecutive manner. And then more specifications related to projection and acceptance of the asphalt that go above and beyond will typically be included in an ODS standard. Material specifications for the asphalt itself, which is the grade of the asphalt, tap coat and grading materials. Again, these all go a little bit above and beyond what a typical ODS standard would normally see. The next slide here, we just have a standard urban cross section for a major or arterial road. This just gives a little bit of a view of how infrastructure is located within the road. This has been kind of standard for quite some time. However, it's now a digital version, so it can be altered quite easily. Gives a layout for sidewalk, curb, hydrant spacing, utilities, as well as notes regarding pavement depth and thickness. Underground, we have water layout towards the west. Sanitary, generally in the center line of the road. Storm sewer in the curb, favoring the south and east side, as well as lighting and better. So lastly, there's some categorized as miscellaneous subjects within the standards, which are a little bit less involved, but still important. So lot grading, considerations for groundwater, the footing depth. A lot of municipalities are moving from getting the footings out of groundwater or near groundwater, avoiding sump pumps running constantly. Lot grading submittal process helps the town when the developers are certified lots and allows residents to start putting up fences and making it off their own. Utility coordination, trenching location improvements. So utilities for the most part have their own standards. So there's just references in there to follow those, as well as from the town standard cross section in the last slide, which identifies the location. Traffic control, signage and lighting, similar to utilities, traffic control standards are for the OTM, general traffic manual. Street naming process specified, which is based on the Heritage Penitentiary Machine Guide, and that is at the consultation of the town. Lighting standards were added, keep it more consistent from development to development, and reference materials for submission requirements as well. So in a general overview, without getting too technical, as I mentioned, there's 130 pages. The document will be available for review posted online after the PIC. So feel free to review, and if there's any questions, they can email Brian Murray or myself, and we'll have contact information. So Stephen will move into presentation and site plan guidelines, which is a separate document.
Just before you move on there, Brad, was there any questions? Was there anybody on the engineering standards part before we go on to the site plan document? There's also a hard copy of the engineering standard and site plan document in case you'd like to review it. Is your microphone on by any chance?
It is, it's just, I was actually gonna come and just, it picked up beautifully on the recording, but it's like quiet. It's your teeth.
It's the first time I've used that.
Yeah.
Good evening. Thank you for taking time to attend the report in terms of the summary of while my name is Stephen Popovich. I'm principal of Popovich Associates, certified in law and engineering firm. Our role was to develop a set of design guidelines for the site plan process. Part of that initiative was to design the process itself. Since there wasn't really anything concrete to start with, we wanted to start working with staff in terms of how best to design a process that would benefit staff in terms of reviewing a specific file, but also applicants in terms of understanding clearly what was expected of them in terms of submission documents, etc. So what we have done, just on this first slide, was to again, just the process itself. We've broken down into pre-application meeting requests. So before filing a formal application, an applicant would present a draft site plan concept to the municipality to review in concept, discuss in general their location, access, again, general high level points. From there, there would be an application review process in terms of the applicant submitting a formal, there would be comments coming from that pre-application meeting, on which the applicant would prepare a formal submission based on what those pre-application comments were. And then part of that process would be submitting the formal site plan application, which staff would review for its completeness in terms of the documentation, fees, etc., whatever it is required in terms of advancing the application to the circulation to staff and various agencies. We have defined specific site plan submission requirements in this comprehensive document in terms of a multitude of requirements based on various department requirements in terms of whether it's building, zoning, planning, parks, etc., engineering, etc. So we try to make them as clear as possible in terms of what those expectations are from the applicant before they submit, just so that potentially has as complete an application as possible to allow them to so reviews any application in detail. We also, in our design guidelines, identified design standards with respect to a number of things with respect to different treatments between different land uses in terms of landscape, etc. Less in flexibility based on staff's comments to allow some say some discretion in terms of, yeah, kind of dealing with specific conditions of a particular application. So, drawing requirements, and just in terms of standards, site plan and building statistics, again, so that the building department can review the compliance with zoning, site plans, so again, all the various departments can review, review the application in its entirety, servicing and grading, obviously, is a key part, as our architectural plans, elevations, describing the building, proposed building materials, access, egress, those types of common things, landscape plans, station trees, planting shows, etc. Where applicable, tree and preservation plan, legal surveys, again, so that staff can confirm and verify that the site we're looking at, and the site we have, conforms with the boundaries that actually define land, and then any miscellaneous requirements. So the next slide, again, this is just a visual pictogram of the process. So for application checklist, application review, again, we'll be meeting with staff, the applicant, and members of their team if necessary to go through staff's initial comments, and then the applicant filing the formal application. The site plan application process, specifically, again, complying with the guidelines and standards and the drawings that we've set up in the site plan guidelines themselves. The next slide just shows various drawings that I mentioned before. So site plan, building statistics, site plan showing setbacks, access, egress, pedestrian behavior, and those items explicitly described in the guidelines themselves. Fences and grading, architectural plans, elevations, landscape plan, and tree and preservation plan, miscellaneous requirements. Through our experience in dealing with many site plan applications, there are typically, not typically, but occasionally, areas where there might be issues in terms of the questions from staff with respect to specific items. So again, for instance, a lighting plan with photometrics. So again, if a commercial site is next to residential, the town may request a lighting photometric plan to demonstrate that there's no light trespass onto private lands. The other is, depending on, potentially a commercial site, the town engineering department may require a truck turning movement plan, for instance, to verify that large vehicles entering and exiting the site can make safe movements. So again, those are all discretionary items that we've written into the guidelines that staff can require. But again, identifying, these potential what ifs, so that staff have the ability to fully scrutinize an application, to their satisfaction. The guidelines themselves, we try to be quite explicit in terms of spelling out for the applicant the process. Again, what's required under the pre-application meeting request, the application review, the primary circulation, the timing of that, the application approval process, how that works, like my commission requirements. Again, that goes through detailed design standards that we are defining as for the applicants. again, against which the town can review the applications. Again, design guidelines, drawings. Again, the site plan showing, again, with today pedestrian access and safety of pedestrians, vehicle movements, etc. is all very important. So again, it's very important in the guidelines that we define what that is and what we require from the town to require the applicant if we're going to support that any application. Servicing and grading plan, and physical work to Renaissance switch, and demonstration with respect to similar works and etc. Find access to the discussions. This that should be shown. It helps, kind of the very beginning process that the fire works. What we find sometimes is that items like that are ignored until the building permit stage, and by then the site is already fixed in terms of the building footprint, access, ingress, parking, etc. And it becomes a challenge for the applicant to deal with those issues. Further down. And I spoke to the engineering standards again. We're emphasizing in the site plan guidelines sustainability and so again, as much as they apply at a larger scale, they need to be applied to a site context as well, so that again, all the system works together as opposed to kind of being lax on the site stage and transferring the problem downstream to the capacity issues in the infrastructure on the system. Again, we talked about design of traffic highways, and stairs, material selection specification, dealing with fires and clothing. On the protective again, writing in the ability within the guidelines for the county to use their discretion to mandate other the applicant. No fence, chain fence, or all the alternatives depending on the circumstances. Again, we also spoke to mechanical units, rooftop mechanical units. We feel that we can't rooftop mechanical units in the same way should screen something. Just some mechanical units to do with the building. So we've spoken to that. We've spoken on the written guidelines around the space, children's amenities, seniors amenities. Again, not overly specific, but again, to provide some framework for the applicant to understand that it's fairly to the town, and there's an expectation that amenity areas are required depending upon immediately on the site. So whether it's residential, playground, fire, whether it's senior residents where you don't have to have different activity fire, again, just to give the town the ability to require a request something beyond what the developer might normally want Yeah, just miscellaneous requirements again, lighting plan, risk management plan, potentially, something like commercial side of the materials. Waste collection, single treatment. Again, we want to keep those. And where sites connected or parkland trails create some framework from which to provide connecting with interface or with the town deems depending on the use not to have a connection, then they have restrictions. So again, to provide that gives the town the ability to at least raise this issue. Okay, so that's basically comes up through the reports and the criminal process.
Thank you. And again, a copy of the site plan guidelines documents in the back in case you want to grab a copy. Okay. Thank you everybody for coming out tonight to join us for our engineering standards update and site plan guidelines public information session. Feel free to stick around and discuss any questions you might have for Stephen or Brad. But otherwise, the presentations will be made available on the town website for view in case any members of the public or anyone would like to get a copy of that in case they missed it. We will be posting digital version of the draft engineering standards document in the site plans standards document on our website for comments. So that'll be issued very shortly, and looking forward to getting comments from the public.